Namaskar. I am Rajeshri Thakur. I welcome you to these series of lectures. These series of lectures are in the subject of physics for standard 12th of NCERT syllabus. Those who like physics, I'm sure they will enjoy the lectures. At the same time, these lectures will be of great help to you. Those students who don't like physics so much, I'm very sure they'll enjoy it. At the same time, they will start liking it too. Okay, so let's get started. In this syllabus, the chapters are interlinked and the topics flow from one chapter to another. The first two chapters are on electrostatics. Statics means stationary. So in these chapters, we talk about stationary charges. And in the third chapter, we talk about moving charges, means when the charges move, it means current. So we'll be talking in the first two chapters on stationary charges. So let's get started and we'll work on electrostatics. The first chapter is electric charges and fields. So electrostatics deals with study of forces, fields and potentials arising from static charges. Now electric charge. To understand electric charge, let us recollect some of the things. Have you ever tried putting a balloon to the wall after rubbing it on your head? Small party balloons you get, especially. Those if you rub and just put it on the wall, then you will see that they stick to the wall. So, have you ever got an electric shock by touching a door knob? I know most of the time these things you experience only during winter season. Okay, but during rainy season, have you ever seen lightning? I'm sure you must have seen that, right? So all these things happen due to something. What is that? That is static electricity. Now what is static electricity? When charge builds up on the surface of a material, we call it static electricity. It is called static electricity, as I have told you, because the charges don't move. The electricity we use every day involves moving charges. Now, when we talk about electricity, not about moving charges or stationary whatever, but we see everything around us uses electricity. So, for example, nervous system, then our thinking requires electricity. So, let us get started and understand what is this electricity. So what is a charge? To know, go to the electricity, or maybe later on in the third chapter we'll be talking about moving charges, that current. To know that, the basic thing is charge. Now what is this charge? To understand that, we have to go to a very small scale, right? Extremely small scale. You must have guessed it. It is atoms. So what is an atom? The atom. Everything we see around us is made up of atoms. We cannot see the individual atom because they are too small. In fact, the diameter of an atom is flashed on your screen. How much is it? Around 1 into 10 raised to minus 10 meters. Suppose you consider the normal size of your classroom. Then in that classroom, what you see is there are so many atoms of air. That is, this is almost equal to 15 into 10 raised to 26 atoms. Now what is inside an atom? The atom is made up of three sorts of particles. Which are they? The electron, the proton and the neutron. Now inside the atom, the protons and neutrons are kept together in a small lump in the middle of the atom, that is, which we call as nucleus. Now that is in a very small space. and the electron orbit around the nucleus. Something similar to as the planets move around the sun, but not exactly, because we say electrons are in a cloud around the nucleus. In an atom, most of the space is empty. There will be a small nucleus and there will be electron quite far. So in between, the space is empty. So to understand that, let us consider a football field. Suppose the atom was of a size of a football field. Okay. So here you can see there is a nucleus, neutrons and protons are there, very small, and electron, it revolves around it. So if atoms were of the size of football fields, then we can consider a grain of sand to be the nucleus. Okay, the size will be of that of a grain of sand, and that is in the center, suppose, of the football field, and the electron is at the periphery, that is at the edge. So you can imagine how much space in an atom is empty. So just to understand, I have taken this example. The charge. The electron is negatively charged. This electron which is moving around the nucleus is negatively charged. What about proton? Those are positively charged. And neutrons? They are neutral. That means they do not have any charge. A neutral atom has equal number of electrons and protons in them. What does it mean? Number of protons is equal to number of electrons. The amount of charge on an electron is same as that on a proton. I repeat this. The amount of charge on an electron is equal to the charge on a proton. I'm not talking about the mass. The mass of an electron and proton are not the same, but the charge is the same. Okay, so hence, if we take out an electron, then we are left with a positive ion. And if we add an electron, then we get a negative ion. Mass of a proton is almost equal to the mass of a neutron. Mass of a proton is almost equal to mass of a neutron. That is almost equal to 1.7 into 10 raised to minus 27 kg. Now, how do charges behave? To understand that, let us recollect about magnets. Now, I'm sure you have seen a magnet in your school days, and then you have played with a magnet also. Now, magnet, it's a dipole. That means there are two poles. Okay, say for example, if we take one pole is A and another pole is B, then it is seen that A and A repel each other, B and B repel each other, but A and B put together is attractive. So what is A and B? You know those poles are called, one is called the north pole, other one is called the south pole. So north and north pole put together, they repel each other. South and south pole of a magnet come together, then they repel each other. But north pole of one magnet and south pole of another magnet comes together, they will attract. So that is what. So we know that two north poles will repel each other, two south poles will also repel each other. So here you can see the north pole, if they are brought together, they will repel. At the same time, if we bring the two south poles, it will repel. Okay, so, but a north and a south pole put together will attract. So what we can say, opposites attract, likes repel. So here, north and south pole, they will attract each other. So again, opposites attract, just to repeat that, likes repel. Exactly the same thing happens with charges, except that we don't have directly, we can have a monopole. I mean, one single charge can exist. Okay, so two like charges put together, they will repel. Two unlike charges put together will attract. Now these charges were named as positive and negative charges by Benjamin Franklin. So two positive charges put together will repel each other. positive in a charge near a negative charge, they will attract each other. A charged object may also attract a neutral one.
So it was known earlier that ember rubbed with wool or silk cloth attracts light objects like leaves, dry leaves. Earlier, it was known that some of the ladies used to rub the jewelry made up of amber and try it on frocks, and they used to see the frocks jumping. So they could not understand what was happening. So the Greek word for ember is electron. That's how the name electron came.
Now let us see this animation. So here there is a balloon which is blue in color and it is being rubbed on head, the dry hair. When it is getting rubbed and then it is taken little away, then you see that the hair get attracted towards the balloon. So let's see what happens. So it goes and it is brought near, then the hair get attracted. Let us see now what actually happens here. So when the balloon is getting rubbed, it is taking off electrons and then they go to the balloon. So the balloon is charged and then when it is brought near, the hair get attracted towards the balloon. So hair are now positively charged and that's why they get attracted towards the balloon. Also they are positively charged, so they go away from each other. So that is what happens. Now static electricity. Static electricity can be caused when certain materials are rubbed against each other. Electrons can be rubbed off from one material onto another. The material that has got extra electrons will then be negatively charged and the material which has lost electrons will be positively charged. The American scientist Benjamin Franklin named these charges as positive and negative, which we generally use now. It is this imbalance of positive and negative charges that causes balloons to stick on the walls, your hair to stand on end when brush your hair on a dry day. Suppose you take a comb and comb your hair and the hair are dry on a dry day, or you take a brush and brush your hair, then you see that the hair, they are equally charged, so they go away from each other, they stand like this. Also if you take this comb and take near paper bits, the paper bits get attracted towards the comb. You have seen that, right? So the electric shock also you sometimes get from the door handles is also result of static electricity. Also all these effects you see generally mostly in winter season very nicely. So you already seen some animations. Now let us see some experiments. Please observe these experiments very carefully. sure you must have enjoyed these experiments. These experiments can be performed at home very easily. Okay, now let us understand what is lightning and how does it occur.
You must have seen lightning. Now see this photograph. In this photograph, you can see streaks of light, as if the current is flowing from top to the earth. What causes this lightning? Lightning is actually just static electricity on a very large scale. So in this, the rubbing is caused by the air moving around the clouds. In thunderclouds, usually the bottom is negatively charged and the top is positively charged. Now, I have already mentioned when a charged body is brought near a neutral body, the neutral body gets attracted towards the charged body. So, the earth has charges. Because of the accumulation of negative charges in the bottom of the cloud, the positive charges from the earth come to the surface. Now, air is a bad kind, in the sense insulator, but there is a limit up to which it can resist. So if the electrons go on accumulating in the cloud or in the bottom part after certain number, the amount of electricity which is, the static electricity accumulated there, the air cannot resist and the charges leak to the surface of the earth, and this we call as electric discharge occurs, and that you see as lightning. Now, why do you hear the thunder? When the lightning flash happens, it heats up air to a temperature almost 5 times hotter than the surface of the sun, and this causes the nearby air to expand and vibrate, forming the sound which we hear as thunder. Now, let us see another small instrument called the electroscope. You can find whether a body is charged or not using this electroscope. So, let's see this animation first and then we'll see an experiment. Please see the experiment, similar experiment which I am showing now. Please see it very carefully.
Okay, so you saw this experiment. The electroscope here was homemade. It is very easy to make this electroscope. Now let us understand what are conductors and insulators. Now let us understand what are conductors. Suppose you have taken a metal spoon or any metal material and you try to charge it, as you have seen in some of the experiment. When I rubbed, the straw is rubbed or the balloon is rubbed, it is seen that they get charged. But you will see that the metal spoon will not show any sign of charging. But if you have a handle which is plastic and the spoon is there, metal spoon, and you charge it, you rub it, it will show some sign of charging. Now what is seen is some material allow electricity to pass through it, the charges to pass. But some material does not allow the electricity to pass through it. So the materials in which the electricity is allowed to pass are called conductors, and the materials in which the electricity cannot pass are called insulators. So all metals are conductors. In these conductors, the electrons are free to move. So say for example metals, then human body, the earth, these are conductors. But glass or plastic, okay, these are insulators. Glass, plastic, wood, they offer high resistance to this electricity. So they are insulators. Now most of the material fall in these two categories, either conductors or insulators. There is one more category, which is the third one, which we call as semiconductors, which fall intermediate in between these two materials. We will be studying about semiconductor little later. In conductors, if you charge it, then the charge gets distributed equally, uniformly all over the body. Whereas in insulators, if it gets charged, it stays in that space. That is why when I have a metal spoon and a plastic handle to that, that's why when it is charged, it shows the sign of charging. Whereas if it is metal and I hold it and then I try to charge it, the charge flows through my body to the earth. That's why the metal will not show any sign of charging. I made a mention about the excess of charge on any body. They can flow through our body to the ground. That means excess of charge can be flown to the ground. This process of taking the excess charge, sharing the excess charge to the ground is called grounding. In buildings, in houses, we have a thick metal plate is buried inside the ground, and the thick wire is connected through that metal plate to the in the wiring of the houses. We have positive, negative, and the ground, these three terminals. So these make your houses or appliances safer, because any excess of charge, suppose leaks to the body of an appliance, that will flow to the excess will flow to the ground and we will be kept safe. Okay, now let us understand charging by induction. You already saw some animations where charging by friction was shown. Also, you saw the animation and the experiment of the electroscope. Now I'll show you some more animations where charging by induction is shown.
In the animation previously you saw that charging by induction. Now, what are the basic properties of electric charge? You can see additivity of charges. That means we can add the charges. So, like there's one charge, there's another charge, there's another charge. I can say total charge is this plus this plus this. Okay. So, if there are Q1, Q2, Q3, Q4, Q5, these are the charges. I'm naming them as Q1, Q2, Q3, Q4. And if I want to find out in this vicinity how much charge is there, then I can directly say the total charge is Q1 plus Q2 plus Q3 plus Q4. So charge is conserved. That means total charge will remain constant. So within an isolated system consisting of many charged bodies, due to interactions among the bodies, charges may get redistributed, but it is found that the total charge of the isolated system is always conserved. Now, what is quantization of charge? Many times this question is asked in the examination. What is meant by quantization of charge? So, what is quantization? Any charge which is there, amount of charge, how much can it be? So, it can be a multiple of some unit charge. Say unit charge is x. Then the total charge which is there, we cannot have x by 2 charge. We cannot have x by 3 charge. We will have always a multiple of that charge. We can have 2 times x. We can have 3 times x. Okay, we can have 4 times x, 5 times x. So, what is that unit which of charge? That not unit of charge. I mean, what I mean is what is that amount of charge of which we can have multiples, but we cannot have fractions of that charge. So, all free charges are integral, means we can multiply it with multiples of with an integer. So, all free charges are integral multiples of a basic unit of charge. I don't mean by this unit means how you measure it, and then like say for length it is centimeter is a unit. We are not talking about it. Amount, some amount of charge. So all free charges are integral multiple of a basic unit of charge denoted by E. So charge Q on any body. Suppose I say this body, this is a body and it has Q amount of charge. Then the charge can be n times E, where n is a integer. So Q charge will be n times that basic unit of charge, that is E. So where n is an integer, positive or negative. Now why positive or negative? Because there can be positive charge or there can be negative charge. Now how do you measure a charge? Like length is measured in centimeters, meters, kilometers. So how do you measure how much amount of charge is there? So we will say that unit is coulomb and it is denoted by capital C. 1 coulomb is the charge flowing through a wire, a conductor, in 1 second if the current is 1 ampere. So this is the definition of 1 coulomb of charge. So charge of on a proton or an electron is the same. I had mentioned this before. And what is the charge? How much is the amount of charge? That's E, which is equal to 1.602192 roughly into 10 raised to minus 19 coulomb. For all purposes, we take this value as 1.6 into 10 raised to minus 19 coulombs. Now let us learn about Coulomb's law. Coulomb measured the force between 2 point charges and found that the force varied inversely as the square of the distance between the charges and was directly proportional to the product of the magnitude of the two charges, and it acted along the line joining the two charges. So this is something similar to the gravitational force, right? So there also the gravitational force is directly proportional to the product of the two masses and inversely proportional to the square of the distance between the two masses. This also, Coulomb's law is similar to that. So if 2 point charges, say Q1 and Q2, are separated by a distance, say r, in vacuum, of course, even in air we take it as the same. The magnitude of the force F between them is given by F is equal to K times this sign mod or modulus of Q1, Q2. It means it is the magnitude which we are talking about. So the sign will not matter. So it is the K times product of Q1, Q2, and it is now this is a constant. It means F is directly proportional to the product and inversely proportional to the square of the distance between the two charges. When I equate it, put the equal to sign, I have to put a proportionality constant. So F is equal to K times Q1, Q2 upon R square. Coulomb discovered his law without knowing the explicit magnitude of the charge. The value of K now here is 9 into 10 raised to 9 SI units. So if we substitute this value in the formula of force given by Coulomb's with charge equal to 1 coulomb and the charge is kept at a distance of 1 meter, then what do we get? We'll get F is equal to 9 into 10 raised to 9 newtons. I'll repeat. So what will be the thing? If F is, Q1 is 1 coulomb, Q2 is also 1 coulomb. So we get 1 into 1 is 1. And suppose they are kept at a distance of 1 meter. Then what is the value of K? We have said K value is 9 into 10 raised to 9. So what will be the force then? If two unit charges, that means 1 coulomb charge, is kept at a distance of 1 meter from another 1 coulomb of charge, then the force between them, that means this one will experience a force due to this charge and this will experience a force due to this charge. What will be that force experience? It will be equal to 9 into 10 raised to 9 newtons. So the constant K is usually given as 1 upon 4 pi epsilon 0. What is the value of epsilon 0? So that we can say 1 upon 4 pi epsilon 0 is equal to 9 into 10 raised to 9. Alright. So the Coulomb's law is written as F is equal to 1 upon 4 pi epsilon 0 Q1 Q2 upon R square, where epsilon 0 is called the permittivity of free space. And what is its value? Its value is epsilon 0 is equal to 8.854 into 10 raised to minus 12 Coulomb square per Newton meter square. That's all in this lecture. See you next time.